All right, so I'm just going to go around the panelists here, and if you could just kind of introduce yourselves and your projects, and then we can get into the real grit of gaming in Cosmos. So yeah, if we could start with yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Kim. I'm the CEO for XPLA, or XPLA. It is a layer 1 chain that's focused on the gaming and entertainment side. So we're trying to build a gaming and entertainment-focused blockchain that is driven by content. A little bit of background about us is that XPLA is developed by one of the largest gaming companies from Korea called Come To Us. Come To Us has been developing and launching games for the past two and a half decades. And in 2021, we decided to put our foot in the Web3 business. So we launched our chain in August of 2021. Our chain is obviously built on Tendermint using Cosmos SDK. And yeah, I mean, so Come To Us is, first and foremost, it's a gaming company, but the entire group is very heavily invested into the entertainment side as well. So what that means for us is that we have first-party production and access to billions of dollars worth of content and IPs. Now, we're playing to our strengths in that we're leveraging the content that we have, and we're trying to build a gaming and entertainment ecosystem on Cosmos. So, yeah, that's a little bit.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Dayakar Reddy. I'm the core contributor from OmniFlix. I'm glad to be here today, talking on Web3 gaming and everything around. So we've been working with game builders who have been building metaverses and onboarding them with the protocols that's required. We believe that Cosmos and Web3 gaming is match made in heaven. So we'll go in details as we discuss a lot of details in the panel. Thanks for being here, and I'm glad to be part of the panel.
Hey folks, I'm Shane. I'm the co-founder of Stargaze. Stargaze is an NFT and Cosmos smart contracting platform in Cosmos. And it's kind of become kind of the de facto NFT platform in the ecosystem.
Hello everyone, I am Ekin Odacıoğlu from Nerf IT. I'm the head of marketing there. We are acting as a bridging tool for Web2 users from esports to actually get onboarded for the Web3 space. We call it internally Web 2.5. Yeah, so that's all for us.
All right, so let's get into like the nitty-gritty of gaming infrastructure in terms of like what sort of games we want on blockchain, etc. So like the first kind of question that I thought of, or I had some help with these as well, is infrastructure development versus game development, right? Because at this stage in blockchain, like, are we ready to start onboarding games from Web 2, like these AAA games? Have we got the infrastructure there already? Or are we still at the stage where we need to actually build this infrastructure out so we can then onboard gaming communities and, yeah, games that are playable and competitive with Web 2 games? So I'll open it up to any four of you. I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so to get gaming to be mainstream, to get adoption on blockchains, I think we need to improve both on the infrastructure layer and in the UX layer, right? So in terms of the infrastructure layer, we have blockchains that are really fast now, right? We have Cosmos SDK, we have app chains, we have rollups, and there's plenty of block space. So I believe that part of it is pretty much there now. And then in terms of UX and wallets, we're getting very, very close to having like NPC wallets where people can just like log in from like Twitter or Google or whatever and have accounts. So I believe we're just months away from having the right UX for like something like a casual game to take off.
I think I'll add to Shane's thoughts that a great UX to onboard users is definitely the need of the hour. But we personally think that when you look at the games and you make bringing together it Web3, you definitely need something that needs integration at the core level, not just the payment layer. In the past, even before we started exploring Cosmos, during 2017-18, while we were working with a project which did a kind of utility based on network sharing. So we had to use something like Cosmos, make sure that it was integrated tightly and coupled, make sure to read the measurements and everything around. If not, it is, the two parts. One is the game and the other is the payment layer that is on chain. If you need to make sure that both, kind of solve the problem that makes sure to adopt and at the same time bring more developers and users into it is via UX and SDKs that would help move forward. And yeah, as I said before, we personally think that because of Cosmos ABCI, it is very easy for you to integrate, or rather not easy, I would say it is straightforward for you to integrate it with existing game SDK straightforward. If not, you'd be using something else that might not be the core consensus and just leave the payments on chain. So yeah, that's my thought on the infrastructure.
I mean, specifically to the infrastructure issue with regards to mass adoption of Web3 or mass adoption of Cosmos, I think that comes first, then I guess the breakout titles from the gaming side. We need a better, more frictionless user onboarding process. Right now, the current UX is just terrible, and it just limits us from converting more Web2 users into Web3. With regards to breakout titles in Web3 game, I think they will come. I mean, we have our own AAA game that called Summer's War. It's been in service for the past 9 years. It still generates like $1 million a day in terms of revenue, but we're not yet ready to launch that and convert it into a Web3 game just because of the market as well as the status of the whole ecosystem. So breakout titles, AAA games will be coming to Web3 soon, and as more and more Web2 studios get involved with Web3 games, we will start to see great games launching on Web3. I would say within the next year or so, 1 to 2 years. It'll take the studios a bit of time to not only just develop it, but also just make sure that it has good Web3 tokenomics or Web3 features that's layered on top of it for them to launch.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the infrastructure behind gaming community is not the technology or the transaction or the fintechs or whatever it is there in the Web3 ecosystem right now. But the thing is, to me, the real infrastructure behind the gaming community is the culture and the daily life implementations they can handle for themselves. And we have to make the community talk about this ecosystem more, but by being inclusive, and then being very simplistic in our way to approach them, and that we don't have yet the proper UX for the users to actually come here and make their loyalty stay here, because it kind of goes on over the mercenary system that is just incentivizing them with the gains and the finances. But in terms of gaming, it's not really relevant to the community because they actually want to have fun from a game. And when they do that, they actually stay. The user retention goes high, whereas the community gets to be built, and more the merrier, right? So in short terms, we have to be very inclusive, and we have to wait for that culture to build up here as the infrastructure for the gaming community, not the other way around. And we have a lot of ways to go for that, to change our perspective, to change our approach to them. And I think we're going to make it at some point, because as Nerf IT, we're trying to bridge it out, as I said. But it's not yet really there now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have a bit of an extending question on that, actually, because, yeah, there's lots of different types of infrastructure, right, as kind of mentioned. So which parts of, say, like the gaming infrastructure do you guys actually believe should go on-chain? Because, you have like the media element, you have like the community building, you have the in-game transactions, and then you have the ownership rights in terms of NFTs. We obviously have a couple other questions to get through, so yeah, obviously keep the answers short, but does anyone have any thoughts as to how much of that should go on-chain?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I think you have to differentiate if you're building a casual game or something more of a hardcore game. A casual game only really needs a blockchain for payments and maybe items. So like NFTs as items and characters. If you're building something more sophisticated, so let's say you have something like a Minecraft type game or like some kind of game where the logic itself is on chain. That's really interesting. So because then people can like fork elements of the game, and you can have these like composable like logic and stuff like that. So you can have this like how DeFi is composable. You can have that with logic for games. So that's kind of interesting. I think that is a little bit ways away. So I think if we're going to have adoption, I think it makes sense for it to be a casual game first.
Can I go?
Oh, go,
Please.
Sorry. For me, the most part that is important in the gaming world is that they talked about the interoperability of the NFTs, so you can actually buy an NFT and own it as a gamer and then transfer it to another game. But I think it's not the main point for gamers. The main point is the continuity. So you can actually imagine if there's a game from Marvel, the same IP, and then there's another game from Marvel. So you play that game, and the content gets finished because you kind of complete it 100%, and there's nothing to gain out of it. And the in-game assets are licensed to the company, not to you, so the ownership problem resides there. But the thing is, if you can make the NFT gaming on-chain that interoperable with the other games that belongs to the same IP, so the user can actually go through a really, really long and endless experience there. And they can just finish one game, jump to the other, and start where they left off with their characters or their in-game purchases or whatever. And that's the continuity that the gamers want as a narrative to follow and track for themselves, so they can be pulled in, have an immersive experience, have the fandom, have the loyalty for it. And then this is the most important point for me on NFTs that will bring the value into gaming ecosystem, I guess.
Another use case I think I would see for on-chain gaming would be, I guess, gambling games, so that you make sure that there's no cheating involved, and any type of competitive gaming tournaments. I think those two settings would make sense for on-chain gaming. But for most of the other games, I mean, like besides what was explained, bringing the game on-chain isn't necessary at this point. I think just overloads the traffic unnecessarily.
I think personally at OmniFlix we think that parts of games which currently the props, the things that in game that you have are all based out of NFTs. So soon when we have these interoperable NFTs, for example, you have shirts or props that our avatar could wear, and if they're able to move between the metaverses, until and unless we connect all of these universes together via IBC or interoperable layer, I believe we're not going to see or have a multiverse that similar to what IBC is doing with chains. So definitely, slowly, I believe as of now it's just play to earn or sorts of games that those are making sure to adopt users. But sooner, I believe, looking at the Krafton choosing Cosmos for PUBG, a lot of few other metaverse builders who are exploring Cosmos SDK like us will definitely start with NFTs as a use case, but slowly in-game props, the XPs, all of these will be digitized and will be interoperable between games is what we think as we move forward.
So kind of like following on from this topic of which info is needed for games on blockchain, I wanted to ask mainly maybe Paul and, is it Ekin or Ekin? Sorry. Ekin, yeah.
Ekin.
I was wondering if maybe you two could maybe answer the question of what advantage does, say, blockchain technology offer for traditional games that are interested in moving? So games that are already existent outside of the ecosystem that may be wanting to move over to a blockchain like databasing model. And then afterwards, maybe Shane, Daya, you could maybe go more specifically into where Cosmos can really offer specific advantages based on its design.
So where I see it, the crypto ecosystem will benefit the Web2 publishers that is trying to come into Web3 in the ways that building up a real tight community for the gamers they want to activate and giving them some kind of decentralization and some calling the shots kind of mechanics, because one of the biggest problems in gaming area that the publishers that have successful games get too big and then they actually get away from the community they were once very supportive of, right? And it happens to any company so far, and they start to ignore the feedback and the desires from the community. So the games are getting worse and worse with bigger and bigger budgets, which is a really big fail in terms of my opinion. So I'm thinking this will be the one of the really futuristic and very simplistic way of integrating your community into the game's heart, and you can actually go on from there, making the community feel really valuable to your game as an asset, as a live asset. So I think it will be even more supportive for the fans, and the fans in turn will support the games even more because they will feel lots of included compared to back then.
So the games that we develop are mostly mobile games. So if you know the gaming industry, you'll know that the mobile gaming industry is very much of a red ocean. There's so much competition. There's so many different players out there. Now, one of the reasons why we decided to adopt Web3 for our games is because we wanted to bring positive disruption to our industry. And really adopt the narrative around providing ownership of gaming assets back to the users. And by doing that, it changes the way that we interact with our communities and with the players that we have globally. Now, I think just that alone, I think, changes the whole landscape of gaming, especially in the mobile space. That doesn't change the gameplay. The games still need to be fun. They need to attract players to play it and retain them for a long time. But what changes is what the gamers do with the assets that they actually own. Can they, I think that it was mentioned by Ekin earlier, can they use the same character or the NFT across multiple games, or a continuation of different versions of the games? Can they trade it freely? So it just changes the way we interact with the communities and give them part ownership within the game. But it doesn't change the game itself for us. I mean, we continue to serve both the game, Web2 side as well as the Web3 side. So for us, it's the same game, which is what we enable in terms of Web3 features that provide better experience for our players.
I think where Cosmos and Stargaze can fit in here is, I think that there is an obvious use case for NFTs as like, in-game assets and characters, but, also the game distribution of the games themselves. So on Stargaze, we already have games that are distributed as NFTs, and then the people who mint them are the only ones who get to play them. So you kind of build this community of people who own the game, and I think that's a lot of fun. But going kind of beyond that, you can also imagine this world where you can have like a gaming hub, and then you can have like multiple roll-ups or chains that connect to that gaming hub, and that kind of naturally fits into the design of Cosmos. I think we're a little bit away from that, maybe a few years, but I can potentially see something like that happening in the future.
So, yep. I think the question is around how Cosmos will help the gaming, and at the same time what we are doing, right? So, well, I think as I said earlier, with Cosmos ABCI, it's straightforward, or it would be very easy to integrate because contracts live on chain. They don't live with the game, on your system. So, or at least, on a shared resources or the servers you connect to. When you want to bring together the consensus and in-game the transactions or sorts where you need validations and stuff, I believe SDK offers a lot of potential in making sure those bindings are available within the game and the SDK that the game is offering. So using this, we've already demonstrated a live streaming event in India with one of the biggest celebrities, goes by name Daler Mehendi. Our partner, Gamitronics, is building a metaverse where they're using OmniFlix core SDK to fulfill their marketplace transactions within the game and at the same time demonstrate the power of NFTs. Thanks to our creators, Tangle, Flixbit, and Flixverse, who are building metaverse and gaming experiences using OmniFlix SDK or OmniFlix protocol as of now. So we're super bullish that looking at Krafton and the PUBG's developer who was chosen, I believe it is going to be a norm or a standard that Cosmos would be widely used in the gaming industry.
Yeah, this kind of maybe brings me on to the next topic. We're speaking about like these NFT communities in Cosmos and some games that already are in production or even live on say, Stargaze and OmniFlix. I mean, when we look at NFTs in Cosmos, there's a lot of PFP NFTs, right? I mean, who here, for example, owns a bad kid? Raise your hand if you do. And then you think about some of the gaming NFTs, right? There's a few on Stargaze. There's a few also on OmniFlix. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. There's the Watchers NFTs. On OmniFlix, there's the IBC game NFTs, and there's also Passage and Strange Clan NFTs. So let's have a quick raise of hands on that. Who owns a gaming NFT in Cosmos already? Nice. So a few NFT gamers here, perhaps. So this brings me on to this question, right? So NFTs have been used as like a way to bootstrap a community for a game. We've seen that with a lot of NFTs selling prior to a game releasing. So this has created a lot of excitement, a lot of hype. But as you know, like building games can take a long time. Shane, you said we're still a couple of years away potentially from building some real kind of sophisticated games on Cosmos. And that can also lead to a lot of disappointment as people wait a long time. We enter from a bull market into a bear market. So how can like NFTs be used moving forward to actually strengthen the community and provide value whilst the games are in development? So I'll open that up to anyone on the panel.
Sorry, please go ahead.
So building a game is not a trivial thing. If you're building a sophisticated game, it can take years. There's a lot of NFT projects that would launch a collection of characters, and with the promise of building a game without realizing how much work goes into building a game. I think I would love to see that kind of work backwards. So I'd love to see someone actually like build the game first and then launch the collection for the characters and the items and stuff like that. I think maybe that model makes a bit more sense. But yeah, I think right now there's too much of a gap between like launching the collection and actually building the game. There should be a bit more of like a cohesive plan there.
I think somewhere using NFTs, as Shane said, you could sell them before or later. But otherwise, I personally think using them for crowdsourcing, since because the game takes a long time to build, is one way to look at it to fund the development. But yeah, definitely games do take a lot of time to build because there is a lot of game mechanics and things that goes within the game. And I'm not sure how much of the percentage of game mechanics will be on chain. But definitely, I think with the start of play to earn and everything around, and you're using NFTs for simple props and things, I believe, it's just the start. And yeah, soon we'll have a lot of different dynamics, like similar to what DeFi is doing.
I just want to backtrack to what Shane was saying. We're nowhere near. We're so early in the journey of play to earn or Web3 games that yeah, we won't see a good game for the next 2 years or so. Like in 2021 and early 2022, most of the Web3 gaming projects, they were busy with fundraising. Ever since then, they've been focusing on building, and for us, it takes 3 to 5 years to develop a single game. But if you were to develop something that was more casual, it'll probably still take you another like 12 to 24 months to develop a game. So you probably won't see a good quality game for a while. But with us, I mean, we are developing our games. We've been developing our games from years ago. So the games that we've launched, we're launching, will be high quality games that we've worked the last 3 to 5 years on. Back to the question on NFTs. Now, like you're saying, the current NFT standard, it's too basic in my mind and I don't think it's suitable for gaming assets. Currently, we're R&Ding a new NFT standard that it's essentially a dynamic NFT where we're trying to add more utility to the NFTs so that, in terms of usage, the value and ownership of NFTs. So, whether it's an NFT that changes its form as you continue to upgrade it, or you can an NFT that changes with real-world events, or NFT that is time-based or usage-based, and it burns after a certain amount of time. So we are trying to implement new NFT standards to our gaming assets that, to make sure that the NFT standard is actually fit for gaming assets rather than it be a universal thing for all types of different assets.
I think the utilization on NFTs are fine, and I think that will be a good portion of the gaming audience here, but not as a marketable item, not as a promotional item. If you don't have the intellectual property strength, then you cannot really sell anything to a gamer. And it's very hard for gamers to just buy into a project just because they are not investors. That's the problem. And in the Web3 community, we have these mercenary gamers. Yes, they come for the money, they take the money, they go out, yes. But in the end, the NFTs, how they are implemented is very important to me, because if you don't have a game and just a commercial for a game, and then you launch an NFT collection, it means zero worth for me. It worth nothing for me, and for a gamer too. That's the problem here. I think they are utilized in the wrong way. If you just utilize the technology behind it and keep the promise that is the ownership for the distribution of the license to the owner, rightful owner, that is a very good vision. But in the end, we're not still yet there. As I said, we're not utilizing it as it is, and we're just doing it a marketable, profitable, and some kind of a commercial asset of the game. But it's not to me. So the technology is nice, but the way we approach it to profitize this thing in the various ways is not right. And I think it will show soon enough that we won't be able to onboard a lot of Web2 users just because of these faulty implementations.
Just based on some of the answers from all four of you, it actually sounds a lot like we still have a lot of infra and tooling to build out. Going back to that first question that was asked. So, yeah, that's kind of very interesting to hear as we've kind of got along those questions. I just have one kind of like final question to round this off. And just keep the answers short, please, if you can. And it's actually going back to the utility of, say, NFTs pre-game launch, and also what advantages blockchain can offer. Because I think it was mentioned briefly about kind of getting the community linked back to the game. And in Web 2, there's a bit of a disparity between the community and the game developers. So like, just very like briefly, if anyone has any thoughts, how can kind of governance through blockchain be applied to gaming? Is that something that has a lot of utility through NFTs or just through the technology? Or is this sort of a side feature? And the main thing is what was discussed before about interoperability of NFTs from one game to another, or the ownership rights, for example.
I think the multiverse is impossible without the IBC type of thing, because when you said utility, assets moving between games is not at the current standard, but definitely I think Universities are independent as of now, and they're relying on a chain for the monetary transactions. But I'm not sure the type of governance that goes on the game chains and kind of utility that might come later. But I believe, yeah, without IBC, the multiverse is a fad. So.
I think one huge thing is that gaming assets could be, incredibly cheap. So it doesn't make sense for a gaming provider to have some kind of marketplace where they have to like pay fees to like Visa and stuff like that to do transactions. So one advantage of building something like on Cosmos is that fees are really low. You can have like millions of items and like trade them for really cheap, for low fees on a marketplace. You can have like auctions for the items and stuff like that. So that's like a huge win. But then you add the composability on top of it, you add the ownership on top of it, and then it becomes more of like a compelling use case.
I think we gotta understand how the gamer attached to a game, and we were missing that point because the thing is like the intellectual property should be trustworthy first of all, because a gamer invests in a game only if they think that it will continue to operate, right? So if you invest in a game in terms of anything, NFTs or whatnot, and if you invest in a game and that game will go out in 6 months, it's not a good sign. So the thing is like we need to work on our games IP first. We need to work on our community activations first. We need to work on our user intake first, and the stability, the sustainability, everything. Then implement these technologies as a feature, which is a very good feature, as I said. I believe in this vision. I believe that this decentralization will really grow in terms of the gamer's mind, because they don't really like to be centralized from publishers, as I said aforementionedly, and the publishers will always not listen to the community, right? So the problem is here that to include these communities, you have to give them the same competitive game asset, right? So you're not competing in Web3 with Web3 games. You're competing with all games. That's the problem here. So if we don't think about it, then it will be always like as it is now, and the numbers will dwindle. So what I'm saying is basically we should first, step by step, try to understand and have a grasp of what gaming is truly about and what the gamers want in terms of our services. Then give them these all extra features, bonuses, and everything that is coming with the Web3 technologies and spaces, right? So if you do that really nicely, I think it will affect the gaming community and it will fasten the mass adoption of that Web3 very, very highly. Right?
I'll just keep it very short. Just a little bit of a different perspective. Like today we've talked a lot about what we can do Web3-wise, blockchain-wise to bring about, I don't know, Web3 gaming revolution. But I think the most important thing is that we develop good quality games. It needs to be fun to play. If it's not, no one's going to come to play the games. And no matter how well of infrastructure we have for the Web3 games, no matter how much tokens that we can, earn the players, if the game isn't fun, it won't be a sustainable business. We won't be able to prolong the lifetime value of any type of game long enough to make sure that we cover our costs. So first and foremost, I think is to make sure that we develop strong gameplay games. But I mean, by no means am I saying whatever we do on the Web3 side is not important. It is definitely important, but we need to make sure that we get high quality games onto to build on the chains first.
All right, well, thank you all for coming and sharing your thoughts there. And thanks you to everyone here listening in. Big shout out to the live stream as well. So anyone who couldn't make it, massive shout out to you guys. And I just look forward to talking about gaming in 1 to 2 years at the next few Cosmoverses and see if we're still answering these questions in the same way. Yeah, so thank you, everyone. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you.